I'm Andrew Anderson of Jerry's Chevrolet in Weatherford, Texas, and we're proud supporters of Texas music. So it's our pleasure to present this week's Texas Legend here on the Texas Music Scene.
Our Texas legend this time is the late Townes Van Zandt. He's often called one of the greatest country and folk songwriters of all time. His songs have been covered by the likes of Willie Nelson, Emmylou Harris, Merle Haggard, and Don Williams, just to name a few. Here's a few thoughts from Texas artists on Townes Van Zandt.
Well, the largest influence on me as a songwriter, I would have to say, was Townes Van Zandt. I've always felt like he was the most honest of all the songwriters. I thought he was the purest as a human being too, you know, even though he was, like a lot of us, flawed, but he was beautiful. You know, he's a beautiful man and he was a beautiful poet. And it seemed like everything that came out of his mouth was poetry, you know.
Between Guy Clark and Townes Van Zandt, I would say I put them about the same place, but just on, then it's all to move.
Townes is, I think, very enigmatic for most songwriters, you know, because I don't believe that that kind of genius is really able to be attained without the madness that came along with it, you know. So it's just like I got to know Townes, you know, and it was tough because I got to be around one of my biggest heroes and watch bad things happen, you know, at the same time, you know. So he really was one of the people who taught me lessons in, you know, two ways. Be true to the writing and all that, but you know, do the best you can to not let it, you know, kill you, which it ended up doing with him. You know, Shakespeare's got nothing on Townes, you know. It's just like, you know, to hear the stuff. I mean, you'd be sitting in a room and listening to him just sing, you know, Dead Flowers by the Stones or something like that, you know. That's definitely a memory that you'll never forget, for sure.
And I think he had a gift to channel pain like very few people, like maybe like certain blues guys, you know. And you know, when you have that, when you're open like that, you're open to a lot of things, and I think that it got the best of him, you know. I think it's a really heavy cross to bear.
So, some of my songwriting heroes that I always looked up to, they're real good about always throwing you a light. You sing those songs night after night after night, and they become like a prayer. And I admire the fact that Townes can just bury it and leave it buried sometimes. That takes a certain type of songwriter. I mean, he can cut stuff up. I don't think I'll ever have that level of bravery.
Well, Townes, like I say, he's kind of set the bar as far as writing, you know, as the songwriter. Townes was, I've known him for, besides being a, you know, great, incredible songwriter, he was also funny. That's the thing a lot of times people didn't really realize. He was, because he was so dark and all that. But when I saw him when he was, you know, younger, he was witty and hilarious on stage, just really funny, and just it's just personality would just suck you in, and then he could do whatever he wanted to then. But yeah, he was brilliant, but he was very witty. I remember he had a great sense of humor. Now, you didn't want to gamble with him, I knew that. I learned that early on, never to do that.
He was the biggest influence on me. You know. That's all I can say. Just in the beginning because of his guitar playing and singing and songwriting, but in the end just because of who he was and the songs that he wrote as a result of who he was. I think I learned a lot about how to be as a musician and a songwriter from him, you know.
Townes Van Zandt, truly one of the great Texas artists. Stay with us, folks. 1100 Springs performs their song Texas Afternoon when we come back.